Hi there guys, and welcome to my review of the ZAR. This is their latest flagship hybrid, 1+7. I'll delve into that in a little more detail in a minute or two. Just wanted to quickly show you the box. Typical KZ box, at least for this segment of their products. They first introduced this style back with the ZSX, which was the hybrid, the top of the line hybrid. Okay, IEMs came over there. It's got a plaque here saying ZAR, as you can just make out. Underneath that, you lift it out. Tips, cable. The cable is actually one of the better KZ cables. Let me just grab it here for a second. So that's the cable that they're using. It's actually not a bad cable, as you can see. It actually looks nice. I would like to see this cable implemented more often in their products. I'm sure that they have the ability to do that. So yeah, packaging, typical KZ basic stuff. As for the IM itself, well, let me just grab it here a little bit more. Okay, it's got the usual KZ quality of late. Actually, that's one aspect which really we can't complain, and it's actually quite impressive, the quality of the products that in terms of the build that KZ is actually able to provide us. As you can see, metal nozzle. All right, I'm using a KBE 07 medium-sized tips. You can kind of see inside the shell. You see the driver, which is the XUN driver, the latest generation, and then it's accompanied by 6 BAs. They're using, they have kind of a formula that they always, 7 BAs. They have a kind of a formula that they always use, which is comprised of the 30019S for the highs, and then the 50024S's for the mids. There's 6 of those for the mids. There's one 30019 for the highs, and then there's the DD. The 50024s, although their main focus is the mids, they also do highs, and the 19 actually just does more, let's say, the super highs, if you want to call it that way. But as I was saying, the shell, it's got a nice build, it's got a nice faceplate, looks the business. As always, fit, at least for me, is absolutely flawless. There's really nothing that I can point to that in that aspect. Isolation is perfect. With these tips especially, I'm actually able to insert it deeply into my ear, and that's the way I usually try and see if I can have my IEM sit so that I do away with any resonances and so on, and that actually improves the whole experience. And yeah, I mean, it looks fine. QDC connector, as you can see, and that's it. There's really nothing more that can be said with regards to the build and so on. In terms of what I used for my listening tests, well, as you can see, I've got my NX7 Frankensteins over here. This one's got the UAE3 and it's got the SFXI from Creative, both of them using AKM DAC chips. Either one I really like a lot, especially the SFXI. And then on this one here, I've got the AP90, also with the 4493 AKM, and the Shio, the Truth Ear Shio with the Cyrus Logic. I did some listening as well on the TK2, but I ended up maintaining it, most of the listening with this, because it just worked very nicely with all of these IEMs. Back to the ZAR and to now position it a little bit better, and you guys might be asking, oh, but Akros, what's all this that you got your Infinite? Well, very simple. There's one IEM here that it's missing, and that I didn't put it here on purpose, but the IEMs that you have in front here are here for a specific reason, and I'll delve into that now. CCA, CRA, okay. For me, probably one of two best single DDs that KZ has done. Period. End of story. That's it. We'll delve into that a little bit more. KZ EDA balanced. Basically, in essence, it's a CRA with a little bit less treble. Again, a spectacular single DD. They've had other single DDs. Some of them I've liked a lot, but I've brought out the ones that I consider to be the standouts. These two. Okay. On this end here, I have the PR1 Pro, their planar, and it's here because for me, and spoiler alert, it is still the best KZ earphone. Still. There is no other earphone that has been able to surpass it, and the ZAR has not done it. But I'll explain it a little bit better. CCA HM20, for me, it is currently the best hybrid that they have. That's it. And then, what do I have here? I have the KZ ZAX, which in terms of KZ hybrids, I still consider it to be the best hybrid that they've done. Okay. This was then superseded by the ZAS, okay, which is a previous model to the ZAR, which had improvements and flaws, okay, and now the ZAR, okay. So we've basically got here a picture being drawn, okay. Just get this out of the way. Yeah, it's no point in here. Okay. The ZAX, when it came out, was a very big upgrade over the ZS6, and maybe perhaps the way that it was commercialized, maybe what was available from other manufacturers, maybe the fact that it it had that KZ reputation preceding it. I honestly think it was an IN that didn't get the deserved attention. Okay, it is a very nice sounding KZ hybrid, usual KZ signature. Okay, it is bass emphasized, but the formula, the 1+7 formula, which they started over there, which they maintained there, and they still maintain now in the ZAR, the formula, I think, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think that's the best formula that they've had. And why do I say that? Fair enough, the DD there has been improved on the DD in the ZAS and the ZAR. These now use XUN DDs, which are an improvement over the DD of the ZAX. But the reality is, the way that it was tuned there, it brought out the best that DD could offer, without having the flaws that it could have if pushed too hard, okay, especially becoming too muddy and too thick. In terms of the BAs that they used in the ZAX, they, in my opinion, made the best selection up to this moment. They used the 50024s, like we have over here, okay, so 4 units of those. They used 2 units of 30019s, which you also find here, and they used a single 30095, and then the DD. So effectively, you could say a 4-way system over there, while over here you have a 3-way system, and over there you also have a 3-way system. And that combination, that way that they've implemented the BAs there, gave the ZAX in my opinion, again, the perfect mids as compared to the ZAS. They were very nicely, let's say, plateaued across the whole range. Great extension. So everything was done very well. And when the ZAS came out, you would have expected that to have been an upgrade. But no, they anticipated the mids slightly by having an earlier rise in the pinna gain, to kind of give it a sensation of detail, okay, but then they dropped it off straight away right after that. So you have this big dip at over 2K and went up to about 4K. You have this big scoop which detracted detail again, and then past that there wasn't much extension as well, so you ended up having a sound which is not fatiguing. That's fair enough, that's not fatiguing. If you use the right tips, and with the 07s that I'm using, yeah, it is a good combination. If you have a source which is also nicely detailed up top, it's like, for example, with the AKMs, when I was listening to the ZAS with the AKMs, it sounded a little bit more darker, a little more warmer, but with the Shio, it sounded amazing. With TK2, it sounded amazing. So if you choose your source carefully, it will have enough energy to then satisfy. But it was, by comparison to the ZAX, a more relaxed, more not as harsh IM, something which I personally didn't find the ZAX to be. Okay. Yes, you could notice the BA timbre on the ZAX, but it was never offensive in my opinion, and we're talking about an IEM that, comparatively to the ZAR, it never had such a crazy price, and you can pick it up for like around $55-$60 now. Okay, the ZAS, you can pick it up for a little bit more than that, $65-$70, and that, yes, because of that lack of energy in the mids and in the highs, it was more relaxed, more subdued, but brought with it as well, you're not noticing so much that BA timbre. In my opinion, it was a step backwards, because it made you have to choose more carefully what you associated with it to get the best out of it, while over here it played relatively well with anything. The ZAR, what have they done? In my opinion, they have gone back to very much a ZSX kind of sound. Okay, so they've taken the XUN driver, which is a very good driver, by the way. Okay, the XUN driver first saw its first, let's say, glimpse of existence in the CRA. That's what you can say over there. Then you found it as well in the DQ6, the DQ6S, and you now find it in a lot of the latest single DDs as well that they have. So the driver itself is a fantastic driver. I mean, the DD is a really good DD. It's just been overly tuned, and much like it could happen with that older DD of the ZAX, where if you got carried away with the way you wanted to tune it, it would become, it would lose its polish. That's what's happened here, because the XUN driver, obviously the latest versions of it are superior, but all of the XUN drivers, they have a quickness which is very satisfying. It's very engaging, and that quickness is down to the fact that they're using a lightweight diaphragm, and that quickness and that lightweight diaphragm has also enabled them to have good extension into the mids and into the highs. The CRA is the perfect example of that. So it's a pity that they've actually gone and excessively tuned the bass part of the ZAR, because it's taken away a lot of that speed. It's made it actually it's made it actually muddy. If you listen to it on its own, and if your thing is bass head and you want a lot of bass and so on and so forth, then fine. Knock yourself out. You will like it. But the moment you start comparing it with other KZs, I'm not even going to go for other brands, you start comparing it with other KZs, you then see that the bass has lost its polish. It's no longer a polished bass. The mids, they've kind of maintained a similar pinna gain to the pinna gain of the ZAS, but contrary to the ZAS having that dip, and when you see the graphs now in a couple of minutes, you'll understand what I'm saying. Contrary to that dip in the past 2K roughly, that you find in the ZAS, and that scoop there that takes away a lot of information. No, they've maintained it nicely there. They've you got a lot of info up to about 5K, and then it just drops off. It just drops off. Fair enough. Let's be also honest. The lack of detail up top and the lack of sparkle is actually more down to the excessive amount of bass that you have here, because. And when I get to the graphs, you'll see the bass in these two is very similar. The difference between here is the fact that you have a lot more mid energy here, a lot more treble energy, a lot more extension. So you've got an open sound here, and over here you've got a closed sound. Some people consider this to be harsh and bright. I didn't. Some people consider this to be overly dark. I also don't consider it overly dark. Of the two, I personally feel the ZAX is the better one. Comparing the bass of this to this, the bass here is excessive. It's too much. The mids are a definite improvement over the mids over there, and you can kind of say that the mids on the ZAR are an approximation of what you had in the mids of the ZAX, but it doesn't have the extension up top. Now, having the crazy amount of bass that it has just muffles down the sound. It actually becomes darker sounding, in my opinion, to my ears, to my music, than it does the ZAS. It actually is, for me, a darker sounding IM than it is the ZAS. And I don't even have to look excessively in terms of the songs to straight away find songs which show that very well. Witchcraft from Ben Uncle Soul. It's very noticeable. It's something which you pick up on it straight away. Roadhouses and Automobiles from Chris Jones. This is a song where his voice is the main point of attraction, throughout the whole song. And the guitar. It's a really, really nice song for you to see or hear a clean, detailed IM. You hear it on the ZAX, it's an absolute pleasure. You hear it here, and it's dark. Actually, it sounds even better than the ZAS than it does on the ZAR, So, all of this to say what? It's a nice sounding IM. It's a valid attempt, but I think that they've gone back. Although it's nice sounding and it's a valid attempt, it's very limited in its genres. It's an IM that will basically pay just EDM, and that's it. It's not a versatile IM like the ZAX was. It isn't. So, in terms of top of the line hybrids from KZ, I stand by what I'm about to say. KZ ZAX is still the best one they've done up to now. The coherency between the frequencies is the best. The technicality is still the best. That's got a decent sound stage. It's got decent imaging, with all the nuances and all the possible issues that you can come up with regards to that, what I've just said about imaging and soundstage. We all know it's an IM, it's inside your head, blah, 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 so it's all a psychoacoustic effect. We all know that. But it's got still the best soundstage. It's still got the best sensation of air. It's still got the best sensation of 3D. It's gone backwards over here. In terms of technicality, it's better. In terms of everything. What you do get over here that you don't get over there is monstrous amounts of bass, but it's a bass which is just it's excessive and only focused on specific genres. That one is a much more versatile IM. Period. Again, I would, even with all the little attentions that you have to pay to really get the ZAS to shine, I would still honestly take the ZAS over the ZAR. On top of all what I've just said, the ZAR has got a price which I just feel is completely out of context. I mean, it's not like they are using any special BAs or anything that is out of the ordinary. No, it's got an XUN driver, which you find in a CSX, so a $20 IM, and then it's got some BAs which as well you can find in the ZS10 Pro from KZ as well. So you got like I've mentioned before, you got 50024Ss and 50019s. I mean, run-of-the-mill BAs, nothing really that justifies you paying almost $90 for it. No. I'm sorry, but no. As compared to then the other little selection that I've made here, what can I say? CCA CRA, still for me an absolute beast of an IM. It does everything that it should do right. Okay, but the mids are a little bit recessed and it sounds too V-shaped. Honestly, you compare this to the ZAR and it plays better than the ZAR. Yes, I've just said that. This plays better than a ZAR. It's got more extension than a ZAR. It's got much better bass quality than the ZAR. You know, oh, but the mids and the ZAR are better. Yeah, the mids and the ZAR are better, and they have the potential to be better if they didn't have the excessive amounts of bass that are present, which just camouflage that nice mid quality that is there. So, KZ EDA, balanced. It's basically a CRA, but without that amount of extension. Funny thing, which I'll show you now in the graphs, is some people complained the CRA had too much treble and the peak at 5K was a little bit excessive and so on. Okay, you put foams like I've got, you put foams on a CRA, and I'm using the KBO7s on the ADA balanced, and they graph almost identical. Okay, so that 5K peak is basically gone here, and it sounds every bit as good as an EDA with a little bit extra extension. So these two, honestly, for me, the best DDs that KZ has done up to date. The best. Yes, the EDX Ultra is also very good, and I've said it many times that I like it. The CSX is also pretty decent. The Lyre is also pretty decent. They've had a few others, but these two are still the standout ones. Okay, that's it. And both, in my opinion, superior than a ZAR. On this end, CCA HM20, which when I show you the graph now in a second, you see that it graphically has the same amounts of bass visually, but no, it doesn't. And that's again something that I want to point out. I respect everybody's opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's the way it is. But I've heard so many people so many times say that this has got crazy amounts of bass that honestly I don't understand. Maybe it could be just me. Fine, and we all have ears that are different and listen in different. But I honestly never found the HM20 to be excessively bassy. I think that the bass on the HM20, considering that it's a 7mm driver, can never be as impactful and as visceral, let's put it that way, as it is, for example, on the ZAR. Because of, even by virtue of the fact that it's got a bigger driver. You look at the graphs and they graph exactly the same thing. You listen to them and this one sounds dark and muddy and thick, while that one sounds clean. It's got good detail, good extension. Honestly, much better hybrid than the ZAR. Much better. Okay. And finally, the PR1 Pro, which was the final version of that KZ saga, starting off the PLA and then all the models that came out, the PR1 then balanced and the HiFi and so. This thing is an absolute beast. I said it when I reviewed it, and I'll say it again now. You want the best KZ sounding all around, PR1 Pro. End of story. Great bass, great mids, very, very similar in those two departments to a very good IEM, which is the Lecture S12. Okay, very, very similar. Okay, and then it's got this crazy extension. Fine, granted, fair enough. I am 51 years old. Fine, my hearing is not what I used to be. I can only hear up to 15K. So maybe the extension that it's got here doesn't bug me as much as it will bug a young person that can still hear up to 150,000K. I'm just joking. Fine, I understand that. But the reality is it's got great extension. And I just love it with the foam tips, with these KZ foam tips that they actually supply it with. The Pro is an absolute beast. And money for money, I'll take the Pro any day of the week. So there you have it, guys. As I've said many times before, I like KZ. I will stand behind their products when I have to stand behind their products, but I'll also call them out when I have to call them out. And with regards to the ZAR, they've been called out. I really hope that they will improve on it. I really hope, because the formula is there. All they have to do is just bring down the bass a little bit. They bring down the bass a little bit and just give it a little smidge extra extension past 10K. And this thing will be a really good sounding hybrid. It will. Okay? The bass needs to come down to ZAS levels. At the very least that. You bring the bass down to that level and you maintain the rest as it is, and it will be a totally different beast. As it stands, KZ ZAX still the best hybrid that they've done of, let's say, previous times. Of the current crop of hybrids, HM20 is the best hybrid that they have, period. Okay, these two, the best DDs that they have, EDA balanced, CRA, and the PR1 Pro, the best planar and the best IM that they manufacture. Okay, anyway guys, I'll show you now the graphs, and we'll talk afterwards. Take care. Hey guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the KZ ZAR. This is the graph of the ZAR, and as you can see, it's not so much obviously the mids here that are the problem. It's not so much that's the issue. It's got a decent enough pinna curve. Starts at around 82 dBs, peaks at about 92, so 10 dBs pinna. Peak is at around 2.5k, just over 2.5k, and then it's got this gradual, dropping off. So very nice peak at 8k, which is couple later, and then some extension, very little actually. The problem of all of this, which messes this whole thing up, is why this excessive amount of bass? Why this 82 to 95 to this almost 13 dB gain of bass? Why? No. And you'll understand now. This is the ZAS, and I've aligned all the graphs. At 500 hertz. So the difference here that you see, you might think, this is not a really big. It's huge in terms of what you listen to. It is huge. Okay, but still the ZAS with that floor, it was able to maintain itself at least at the peak of the bass, at the peak of the mids as well, and we're talking a variation which was 82 to 92. It was 10 dB. Okay, it was fine. It was fine. The problem with the ZAS was then this drop here after 2k, this big plateau here, and it gave an early amount of energy to vocals and so on and so forth, and detail and instruments and so on, and then it just cut it right out completely. No. Comparatively to the ZAX, and I'll just start with the ZAX actually and the ZAS. As you can see, the ZAX in terms of bass very similar to the ZAS, very similar. The pinna is a little bit more peaks a little bit further into the 2Ks already, so 2.3K more or less. But then it's got this nice way that it kind of almost plateaus itself across there up to about 8, and then extension. There is extension past 10K. Yeah, there's extension. There's true extension. This is very noticeable. When I compare, for example, the ZAX to the ZAR, again, the bass it's like the difference is huge. They both have a very similar pinna gain. It's not here in this initial part where lies the issue on the ZAR. This is actually not too bad. It's then the lack of extension that it has past, and the excessive bass, which just messes up everything. Okay, that's that. Compared to the HM20, and like I mentioned earlier, bass is the same curve. You're listening to them. There's no comparison possible. As you can see, the mids are very similar on both. Okay, there is some differences that I find here in that 8K peak, but this had to do with me being able to actually keep the tip in the proper place. But this is not the issue. And then it's got extension. The HM20's got extension, very much like the ZAX had extension. There's extension there. Okay. All right. Comparing now with the CCA CRA, and this is using the foam. Okay, you can see bass is similar, but again, you listen to the bass on the CRA, okay, and you listen to the bass on the ZAR, and honestly, there is truly, in my opinion, no comparison. The bass of the CRA has got nice weight, it's got nice speed, it doesn't sound messy, muddy or anything. No, it sounds really good. The bass on the ZAR sounds excessive, it sounds way too thick, okay? And then, yes, okay, you got this very gradual, pinna gain of the CCA. But you know what? There's extension there past 10K. All of this is being done by one driver. The ZAR is 7 plus 1. I'm sure it could have been a little bit better than this, okay? As a comparison to the HM20 of the CCA CRA and the HM20, you see? Okay, I'm not going to comment. This is now the PR1 Pro. And again, the bass on the ZAR is way more, way more. Don't forget as well, it's planar bass, so it's got a different amount of energy. The mids, very similar actually, very similar, but it's just the extension of the planar. And again, it's just one single driver, not 8 drivers doing the work, okay? And then finally, the EDA balanced. Again, I think the graph is very self-explanatory. Just for the sake of comparison, as I mentioned, this is the CCA CRA and the EDA together. The black line, which is the CRA, is using a phone tip to kind of control this 5K peak here, which it does very nicely. And the balanced is using the 07 tip, the yellow, the large size, which already has that little extra less energy, and it's also got a little less extension past 10K. But in essence, they sound very, very equal. Very equal. And that's why they both are very good, and that's why they both are very much liked. There's been some controversy now regarding the CRA, that they've changed the CRA, they've made the CRA have the tuning of the CRA Plus, and so on and so forth. I've actually just ordered a CRA today, a CRA Plus as well, and the moment I get them, I will test them and show you guys as well, so I clarify that once and for all as well, if that is in fact the truth or not. Anyway, guys, I'll just leave you again here with the graph of the ZAR. I guess it's a valid attempt, but it's a return to a formula which I think is a step backwards. Great as a mono-genre kind of an IM, but not in any way, no way is it superior to or significantly superior to the ZAS. No, it isn't, because at least the ZAS is still more balanced, and definitely not superior to the ZAX. The ZAX, in my opinion, still walks all over the ZAR in every aspect. Quicker bass, more detailed, better texture, way more, mids, the detail on the mids, upper mids, presence, no comparison. And there's a sensation of 3D-ness, of air on the ZX, which just doesn't exist in the ZAR. Okay, anyway, guys, any questions you might have, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you, take care.